These days, getting work as an illustrator means being able to share your work online, and video is playing a bigger and bigger role in that every single day. So what we're going to be doing today is I'm going to be making a short video, and I'm going to talk about the handful of techniques that I'm using in this video to make it just a little bit better. So let's roll that video first. Now, this was a short form video. These are usually less than a minute, and 1 minute does not sound like a really long time, but it actually is. If you want your video to stand out, just pointing a camera at your canvas as you're drawing probably isn't going to cut it. It's not going to hold somebody's attention for more than a few seconds as they're scrolling. So the number one thing, first and foremost, that you should be focusing on is tell a story. Now, this is an illustration that you're working on. We're not writing Lord of the Rings, but there is still a story to tell. It could just be the story of how you created your art. It could be something that you learned while you were practicing today. It could be a story about what inspired you to make the piece in the first place. Those are great, not only because they actually tell a story, but it also tells more about you, the artist. And the more of you can pour into these videos, the better. Now, my story for my short is pretty simple. These are the steps we took along the way to make the thing we made. But a story gives your video momentum. It's a reason for the viewer to keep watching. You want to see how this thing turns out, or how they got from point E to point Z. And changing up your story from video to video is a great way to keep things fresh and inspired. So number two, open with your final results. Your art is really boring when you start out. It's usually just a blank canvas. Maybe you're sketching on it. Show the viewer what you're going to be making, what you are building towards. The first seconds of your video is what people are going to see as they're scrolling through their feed. So you want that to be probably the most exciting part of your video. You want to make them stop and wonder, how did they make that? Next is cut between shots. Sometimes showing your process in a video is just you drawing. I'll be the first to say sometimes that is incredibly compelling. But since we're talking about short form videos and spicing up your short form videos, I think cutting between different shots, showing different angles, showing different ways that you're working on it is a pretty good idea. Think of this as like a movie trailer for that longer form video. You can set up your camera to get one angle, and then you can record your screen from another angle, or maybe you're screen recording some of that footage to splice it up and place in the middle. Before you start drawing, maybe write down some of those key shots that you want to be able to get, so that way you can be thinking about moving your camera around. I know from personal experience, when I get into the flow of a drawing, that's all I'm thinking about. I'm not thinking about where my camera is. Writing it down beforehand could really help. Next tip is lighting and camera angles. This is harder than it sounds. I have a good size overhead light here, and I usually film it in front of my big window, so I have lots of natural light coming in. What's important here is I have a lot of natural light, but I don't want direct light. I don't want really hard shadows. I also really like drawing and filming on overcast days because I feel like I get a really good picture. Now, my big light here has a diffuser on it, and what this does is it gives me much softer shadows. Another little quick tip here is when you're recording, especially if you're recording a screen, you're probably going to want to play around with the brightness settings of that screen. I tend to keep my screens pretty bright when I'm actually drawing with them. However, when I'm recording on that screen, I like to turn the brightness down. By turning the brightness down, what it lets me do is it lets me brighten up the entire image. If your screen is really bright, your camera's going to adjust to that and darken up everything around your tablet. This is one of those trial and error things. You're just going to have to see how it looks, and if you feel like the background or the surrounding elements are too dark, turn down that screen and recalibrate a little bit. The other thing to keep track of are the drawing angles. I'm right-handed, so I try not to set up my camera behind my right hand because that blocks what I'm drawing. So I'll set up the camera on the left side and draw with my right hand, or I'll set up my camera directly above my canvas so it can see me drawing everything. The other thing that's going to come into play when you're setting all this up is direct light on your screen. It's gonna leave a reflection. Just by being able to prop up your drawing pad at a couple degrees, you're gonna reduce a ton of that reflection. And that's gonna make it a lot easier for your audience to see what you're drawing. I also have the ability to pivot my big light, so if it is reflecting on the screen, I can push it back or pull it forward to remove that reflection. As I'm going through this video, you're probably wondering, hey, what camera are you using there? This is the Sony ZV-1F, and it was provided provided to me by today's video sponsor, Best Buy. They also gave me Adobe Photoshop Elements and Premiere Elements 2023. That way I could work with and edit the video and photos that I take with the Sony ZV-1F. This is a great little vlogging camera. It's lightweight, it's pocket sized, it's got a nice little fold out screen, so if you're filming yourself, you can frame up your scene really well. The camera has a 1-inch sensor and a wide angle 20mm f2.0 lens. You can capture a lot in your scene, even at arm's length. And I've been pleasantly surprised by how it performs in low light situations. And then there's Adobe Photoshop Elements and Premiere Elements 2023. This year's release installs faster and launches 50% faster too. They also have new features like AI updates to help you get the most out of your software, making photos and video editing easier. These products are available at Best Buy, who has fast delivery options, or something that I love to do is to order online, and then I could go to my local store and pick it up that very day. And if you find it somewhere cheaper, Best Buy has a price match guarantee. Check out my links down below in the description and pick these products up from Best Buy today. Next up, I want to talk about movement. Movement can mean several things. The camera can be moving, you could be moving or showing your hand moving. What I want to do is I want to get some kind of motion in every single shot. I want something to be moving. Even if I have a still image that I want to show for a second or two on the screen, I might just slowly zoom in or out of it to get some kind of motion. Now, one area where you really want to look into this is speed draws. That's something that's really fun to stick into the middle or various sections of your drawing. A great way to break up that footage if you have a camera and then you're cutting to a speed draw. But what often happens with the speed drawing is sometimes you'll be really focused on something like, oh, that arm doesn't look natural, so I'm going to draw a line, erase it, draw it, erase it. Sometimes in a speed drawing, there are large sections where it doesn't look like a lot is happening. So when you're cropping in any kind of speed drawing that you're using, make sure you get the sections in your video that have the most action. Next tip, shoot bigger than you need it. This is a quick little tip. If you can shoot at 4K, do it. Yes, your file sizes are going to be a lot bigger. You're going to have to store a lot more on your computer, but it also means that you can crop in a lot closer without losing any detail or having your video or images get fuzzy. Or if you're adding in your own motion, that means you can zoom in or zoom out or pan without losing any resolution. Next tip is invest in a good tripod. Maybe this isn't something that you want to do right away. Maybe you want to make some videos and see if this is something that you enjoy before you actually spend a lot of money on it. But a good tripod is really valuable. It's going to let you change your angles of your shot so you can get a lot of different variety going without a lot of work. This also really helps with that screen glare I was talking about earlier. Sometimes if you can't readjust your light or you can't get your tablet at a better angle that's still comfortable to draw at, just changing the angle that your camera is positioned at can get rid of some of that screen glare for you. Next tip up is audio. If you aren't comfortable talking in your videos, music can be your best friend. Although some of you who think you're not very good at talking in your videos are probably better than you think you are, and it's worth giving a shot. Especially if your video has a really interesting story to tell. People will forgive you if English maybe isn't your first language, if your story is good. Now, a lot of times finding a really good song that matches the vibe of what you're drawing can make a really excellent and fun video. Be careful what you use. Some platforms will let you use copyrighted music, some not so much. Others are going to limit how long of a clip that you can use in your video. So just be aware of the rules of the site that you're using before you post your videos. Now, I'm on YouTube. I use YouTube quite a bit, and they've recently changed the rules, at least according to how they do their shorts, as far as using copyrighted music. You can have copyrighted music in your content now, but you have to use YouTube's content creation tool in order to do that. Now, that's going to be great for a lot of you creators out there. Personally, I prefer to edit my videos outside of YouTube's content creator, so I end up using a service called Epidemic Sounds. This is a copyright music collection. Even though this music is technically copyrighted, it's not like Apple Music or Spotify music. It's not popular music. It tends to be lyric-free music that you'd hear in videos, but it's actually much better than you think it is. If you use music and voiceover, turn down the music. Make sure it's not too loud. This is much better. Also, this is big. Don't sleep on sound effects. A little sound between your transitions can add a ton. I pick up my pencil, I add a sound effect. I'm drawing, I add a sound effect. You get the idea. Last piece of advice, watch a lot of videos. Not just your own videos, not just drawing videos, but any video that you think is well edited. Ask yourself, how did they do that? Why is this working? Why did this hold my attention? By being able to ask those questions of other videos, it's automatically going to make your videos better because you're going to start to understand why things are edited the way they are. So those are my tips. What would you do that I haven't mentioned here? Let me know down below in the comments. Thank you all for watching, and I'll talk to you in a couple of days.